And we should be live. Welcome to another live stream repair. We've got the usual HomePod back here finally. I hope everybody enjoyed the short break from the usual HomePod repairs. We previously had a couple of Xbox Elite 2 controllers come in that we are still working on fixing. The person who sent those in has ordered some replacement joystick modules specifically, so we'll get those replaced to fix that sloppy joystick that's in here. We also fixed up an LG Stylo 6. That was just a personal project. And so we're back to the usual for now, at least. We've got ourselves a HomePod that doesn't power on. And this one was sent in to us from Noah. So let's crack on into it and see what we've got for us today. So we want to, of course, just plug this in really quick and make sure that we've got the issue that they described. Get it connected to power here, and we don't see anything on the screen, but we do have a few watts being pulled at the wall. So pretty classic signs of a shorted diode on the amplifier inside. Let's get that power cable removed and tear right on into this guy. So we're gonna grab our pry tool and of course pry that top plastic surface off. There we go. Display removed without a problem. Let's take out those 4 T6 screws holding the display on. Let's get zoomed in a little bit here. There we go. Then we can pry that display on up and out of there. Just want to get this these adhesives here put back into place so we don't have to fight with them later. There we go, good enough. So we can take that frame out now. Just those 4 more T6 screws and the 2 others holding that drawstring on. And we can pop those drawstrings out. Get that mesh loose up at the top and pull this frame off and set that to the side. And we can get that logic board out while we're at it. And then let's get a base to set this on. Get that ribbon cable pulled off of this basket, so when we go to pry this basket off, it doesn't take the cable with it. And let's get these rubber screw covers taken off so we can take those screws out. Last screw for this top basket. Very good, and then we'll just double check we got them all taken out here. Cool. So we can get our big fat flat head and start prying this basket off. See if we can pull that off by hand. Yeah, give up. That's right. I own you. You are an Apple product, and I am a human. You can't defeat me. Get this woofer taken out now. Very good. Should be able to lift this woofer out now. Yeah. Peek at that voice coil in there. Looks good, smells good, feels good. Let's get this out of the way here. Take out these plastic rings. Get that power supply taken out next. And last but certainly not least, let's get this amp out. Take out those 14 screws. Alright, time to pull that amp out. Set this shell to the side. Get ourselves a close-up. So we can inspect this board. Yes, I have to go into OBS, deactivate the camera, refresh my devices, reactivate the camera. Thank you, Windows. Okay. So let's take a look at our primary culprit, that Schottky barrier diode. And we can see right here, that's our power diode. This is our Schottky barrier diode. It's a 60 volt 5 amp. and most likely this is the cause of our no power issues. It should be shorted, if I am correct. So we'll just grab our power meter, or our multimeter here, stick that into continuity test mode so it beeps if there's a short, and just check this component really quick. Yep, you see that? Completely shorted all the way through. So we'll go ahead and replace that, and that should most likely fix our no power issue. Let's just go over the rest of the board and make sure there's nothing else obvious. You never know. But everything else looks to be in good condition. Normal to have this kind of crud around the tall capacitors here. Looks like everything else is alright. So let's go on ahead and pull this diode off, get it replaced so we can power this amp up, and then do the usual DC offset checks just to see, and then we will be on our way. So of course, let's get our hot air turned on, get our gun on down here with some tweezers, and go right to town. Just gonna keep poking it and hitting it with the heat until it's melted, and then we should be able to just slide it straight down and off our board here. Easy peasy. Alright, let's put that in the graveyard. Grab ourselves a fresh new spanking diode. Go on and put some flux on that guy so we can get some fresh solder on it. That'll help it when we go to reinstall it on the board. It'll just make our job a whole lot easier, give us a longer lasting repair. Okay, get our iron and just clean that tip off real quick. We want to make sure our iron's always clean and got some fresh solder on there. Slap that onto our diode. Very good. While we're at it, we should put some flux on our board. And we can pop our new diode into place. Grab our heat and reinstall that bad boy. We're gonna heat that up until we start to see our solder melting, and pull the diode into position, and then we can press and hold down on that diode. Hit it with a few more seconds of heat before we pull that heat away. Keep holding it down until we see that solder solidify right there, and we can let go. And that's it. Let's get that cooled off and cleaned off here really quick. Just gonna grab a rag and some isopropyl alcohol and clean that excess flux off. Also gives the board a chance to cool down a little bit. Don't want to just immediately plug this into power and while it's still 400, 500 degrees Celsius. All right, nice and clean, nice and cool. So this is ready for us to throw some parts together for it on the bench. Let's just check and see that, of course, our no power repair worked and this boots up. And then now that it powers on, we'll want to check for that other oh so common DC offset issue on the woofer, just to make sure that they don't get their pod fixed for no power and a month later their woofer fries from too much DC. You know? Got that power supply on there. We're going to get a logic cable connected so we can plug in a logic board. Got a logic board and display here that's already set up and ready to go. We'll just get that connected. And let's get an AC power lead on here so we can plug this into power when we're ready. We're going to connect our subwoofer here. That's got these extra leads on it so I can connect my multimeter, which I will set to read DC millivolts. Get those connected. And last but certainly not least, let's get the power plugged in and see what we've got. And all right, so our no power repair worked. It's now booting up. We'll let that finish booting up and then check for any DC offset that may need to be repaired before we throw this back together all the way. All right, it's finished booting. Let's give it a test. And we've got 8 millivolts. I didn't hear any popping when I woke it up either. So this is a pretty good result. As long as this stays at around 8-9 millivolts, I'm totally happy with this. If I saw like 50 millivolts or more, or I saw 8 millivolts, but it was growing, and by 30 seconds later it's at it's grown 10, 20, 30 millivolts, those are all signs that you'd want to you'd want to proceed with the DC offset repair. But here I don't see any sign, rhyme, or reason to go with that, so we will tear off the test parts here and get this fully reassembled in the shell. All right. Got our shell back. Let's drop that amp in. And if you want to know more information about the no power and DC offset issues, if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you when I talk about these things and explain them, I've got a little more information on my website at nixfix.com. If you go down to the common issues section, I've got a brief little explanation how to diagnose and how to repair all of the common issues that I go over on my channel, including the no power issue that we just did here and the DC offset that we just diagnosed and didn't find any for, at least on this one. But I go over, just briefly what is DC offset, how to diagnose it, what are the symptoms. So hopefully helps people understand a little more what exactly DC offset is every time I mention it. I dropped a screw. I'm not going to spend the time looking for it on the carpet. Just going to grab another one. these screws can just be straight, pure, frickin' evil. If you didn't curse before, try not doing it working on one of these. You could sit there for like 5 minutes trying to fight one screw into its threads. It gets so annoying. Sitting there, popping off your screwdriver, going in cross-threaded, not going in at all. And sometimes you just lose your patience and you just want to ream that freaking thing in there. But just be patient. You'll get them. Okay, all the screws for the amp are installed. Before we forget, let's get the logic board ribbon cable that connects to the amplifier reconnected there, because we don't feel like throwing this back together and then wondering why it won't power on still. Just to remember, we didn't reconnect our cable in there. Ho ho ho. Get that power supply put in and all nice and connected. Cool. You can put those screws in for said power supply. Alright, power supply is fully secured. We can start putting our gaskets back in. Getting pretty close to the end for this one. All the hard stuff is all done at least. Now just the tedious task of putting it all back together, making it one whole piece again. Get that gasket for the logic cable put back on. Do not want to forget that. We can get our subwoofer here, put its gasket back into place, plug that woofer back on in, drop the woofer in. Careful, easy. Very good. We can screw that woofer on in now. put these screws back in a star pattern. We're going to go across, 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 and not just in a circle. Just a nice little extra bit of precaution to make sure this woofer goes on nice and centered and it's tightened down nice and even. Really, once you get the first two opposite screws in and tight, then you've pretty much got it centered, but why not? Takes no extra time or effort to do these kinds of things. Why not? Alright, woofer is on. And get that top basket. Drop it on into place. Or, you know, the factory glue that Apple so graciously provides us instead wants to interfere with your fitment. So you go in there and cut the crap out. Quite annoying. Why, Apple? Why? Why do you hate us? You should love us. And then we'll love you and give you more money. But no, you hate us. And you want us to give us all your money. Us to give you all our money. Good grief. I hate this glue, I hate this glue, I hate this glue, I hate this glue, I hate this glue so much. Thank you for making our lives that much harder for no good reason, Apple. Alright, we can finally screw this on down. Last screw for the top here. Finally. Let's stick that ribbon cable back to the top. Get this mesh put back into place. Get our logic board dropped back in. And then our frame. Feed those drawstrings back in there. Get that mesh tightened on up. Get those drawstrings tightened and wound back up. Alright, time for that display. Alright, last but certainly not least, let's get our touch cover back on, and then we'll give this a quick test. light. Looks fantastic all the way around. Can't even tell. Right, of course, let's get this plugged into some power. Just to do our last little bit of sanity checks here. And we've got a boot light. Alright, it's finished booting up. Let's check for sound.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Sound works. Let's check the volume buttons.
I'm
Volume buttons light up nice and even. So
I'm having
right on. We got this one all fixed up and looking great again. Excuse me. And looking great again. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream repair. That is all for today. If you had any questions, drop them down in the comments. Shoot me an email. Visit my website, nixfix.com. Or just tell me to go to hell. I don't know. In any case, hope you enjoyed this one. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Goodbye!